We're finding ourselves at a very exciting moment with the Skywalker saga coming to an end. We're at a place of what's next for Star Wars. One of the things we've always done is be able to use our franchise platforms to explore the creative potential in the Star Wars galaxy. And so what if publishing was more of an incubation?
We've all done lots of storytelling, but this is unique and really special.
It's the secret history of the galaxy.
Yep, it goes way back to the beginning of Star Wars.
For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice.
A line that we've been hearing since 1977, and we thought, what does that look like?
It is a golden age where there's much more peace and calm in the galaxy. So we're calling it the High Republic.
The description that we've used for the Jedi of this era is that they are the Jedi Knights of the Round Table.
But Star Wars isn't just about Jedi, and we will tell stories of new smugglers, new scoundrels, new bounty hunters.
The threat and the tension really comes from the Republic's borders, because the Republic does not extend from one side of the galaxy to the other.
It's a bit of a Wild West new frontier. We see a different kind of Jedi that patrols the frontiers and is more of a Texas Ranger.
We're now bringing in concept artists, illustrators, and visualists, the same way that you would when you're making a movie.
We even had Ian McKay come down and just do sketch after sketch for us. When you have the guy who designed the look for Darth Maul sketching Jedi for you, it doesn't get any cooler than this.
It gives us the ability to tell vast, interconnected stories across multiple years. There will be a core group of heroes that will expand over time. There'll be villains.
Our main villain are the group called the Nile. We kind of like to refer to them as Space Vikings.
Their motto is, you can't take it with you, but we can take it from you. Our story starts with what we're calling the Great Disaster.
It wouldn't be Star Wars without adventure. And there's definitely a series of events that will spin the galaxy into a dangerous new direction, and it'll give the opportunity for heroes to rise up.
The cool thing about this is that there's going to be a story for every Star Wars fan. What scares the Jedi? And that made us all go, ooh, something wicked this way comes.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my breakdown of the Star Wars High Republic trailer, which is starting later this year. It's sort of the beginning of what's going to be the next big phase of Star Wars storytelling, all the movies, the Disney Plus series, and all the publishing stuff. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. This is going to be in addition to all the Mandalorian Season 2 stuff that's happening this year and all the other Disney Plus stuff that's already in production. We'll just break this down top 5 WTF style, starting with number 5. What is Star Wars High Republic? Well, as the pull quote from Obi-Wan Kenobi says, for over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic before the Dark Times, before the Empire. Well, this is Star Wars sort of shifting its focus into the past. We all kind of assumed that they would try some Old Republic stories at a certain point. This is obviously during a slightly different time period. They're calling this somewhere between 230 years before the events of the modern era. So we're talking about a much younger version of Yoda, who would still be pretty old. Yoda said that he'd been training Jedi since he was around 100 years old, so that means that's also around the time he became a Jedi Master. But age is pretty relative for Master Yoda. They slipped in some concept art of a younger version of Yoda into this trailer too. You may have spotted it, so there are a couple Easter eggs for Yoda stuff, even though they didn't focus on it too much. For the most part, the early stuff that they're going to start dropping in August is mostly introducing a bunch of new characters, because obviously Yoda is like the one common denominator, the one person who was around to see all this happen. But most of the humanoid characters live normal lifespans, so most of these people would all be dead and gone by the time the prequels begin. The reason why they're choosing to call it the High Republic era is to differentiate it from the Old Republic. So Old Republic is thousands of years ago, this is hundreds of years ago, and they're calling it the height of the Republic, as in during this period the Jedi Order was at the height of its power and level of respect within the Republic, but the Republic itself didn't extend from one end of the galaxy to the other, so their borders are smaller, and there's a lot of other syndicates and factions within the galaxy that also hold a lot of power, like we talk about the ancient Mandalorians having a lot of power, so I'll also address that too, because they did give us a little bit of a teaser for the history of the war between the Jedi and the Mandalorians, but that's not what's happening during the period of the High Republic.
The songs of eons past tell of battles between Mandalore the Great and an order of sorcerers called Jedi. that fought with such powers.
They did reveal who the first new main villains are going to be during this period. They didn't say they'd be the only villains, and they didn't talk a whole lot about what's going on with the Sith, because this is still during the prime time Rule of Two era of the Sith. So the obvious follow-up question is number 4, WTF, what's going on with all the new Star Wars movies that have been confirmed and new Disney Plus series that they're making right now? The official release dates for the next couple of Star Wars movies are December 16th, 2022, December 20th, 2024, and then December 18th, 2026. Basically, same old Star Wars movie schedule starting in 2022, except that it's not supposed to be a trilogy. They've said that they're moving away from the trilogy model, and they're just going to start doing standalone movies with the option that if something becomes really popular, it might become a trilogy. The way they're talking about the High Republic era is that it's sort of an incubator for stories. I think the strongest of these stories have potential to become Disney Plus series, but because they're just starting out, it's probably going to take them a couple years to find out what sticks, because they just started exploring this new era in Star Wars history. There was the rumored Old Republic movie that went into development. We haven't heard about that much since it was announced. That could become a Disney Plus series too. So if you hear them talking about Knights of the Old Republic Disney Plus series, that's what they're referring to. There's Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie that they announced. We don't know what that's going to be or what era it's going to be set during. There's the new Sith movie set on Exegol before the events of the new trilogy that they just announced a couple days ago. But the Hollywood trades are also reporting that that could become a Disney Plus series. I think it just depends on how strong the pitch winds up being. There's Taika Waititi's rumored Star Wars movie. He just jokes about that when people ask him about it, trying to pretend like it's not a real thing. There's also a bunch of spin-offs for the Mandalorian series they just announced, but they didn't say which time period that would be set during. Some will probably be set during the past, some will probably be set during the future. And even though it seems like a no-brainer, like eventually they should do a Baby Yoda movie, they have not talked about doing a Baby Yoda movie yet, because obviously he is the future of the Jedi Order, someone to watch the next 800 to 900 years of Jedi history unfold in the galaxy. Number 3, who are the new main characters? What are the Jedi doing during this High Republic era? And who are the new main villains? They've only revealed a couple of the characters' names, but the very first project is coming from Charles Soule. It's called The Light of the Jedi, and it's going to sort of world build and explain what's going on. It's going to be the intro to the High Republic era. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he said that the Wookiee Jedi's name is spelled like this, and this lady in the front is named Avar Kriss. They're saying the story of the High Republic begins with an event called the Great Disaster, some big cataclysmic event. They just say that the new group of villains is called the Nile, and they're kind of like space Vikings, so it's not necessarily the Sith. But then obviously they end with that teaser, what are the Jedi afraid of? We're going to explore that. What are the Jedi afraid of? Mostly the Sith. So I think that implies that we will eventually see the rise of the Sith, or the Rule of Two, continue during this era, but it is still during the Rule of Two, so there's no giant group of Sith out there hiding. But number 2, WTF, what's going on with Yoda during this period in his life? We see a couple screen grabs of a young version of Yoda, or a younger version of Yoda, because he'd be in his 700s instead of being in his 800s or 900s. But like Yoda has said, he'd been training Jedi since he was around 100 years old. That's when he became a Jedi Master. So around this time, he would have already become the senior member of the Jedi Council at the height of its power and influence within the Republic. So even though Yoda was at his most powerful once he became a Force Ghost, just based on the mythology and the way that the Force works, this is Yoda at the height of his power within the physical world. But number 1, WTF, how will these High Republic era stories that they're starting to release this August going to help set up the new Star Wars movies and new Star Wars Disney Plus series? For the most part, they're just saying that the early stuff is going to be an incubator for potential ideas to mine for new movie and TV projects, so I think it's more likely that we would wind up eventually seeing a High Republic Disney Plus series before we see a High Republic movie. Just because the risk is so much lower, but it's probably going to be a couple years before we find out about that, just because they want to see how the publishing stuff does first, then they'll start doubling down on this era in history. But in terms of moving Star Wars movies into the past, this is in addition to all the rumored Old Republic stuff, or Knights of the Old Republic, that they've talked about before. If the timeline sounds kind of confusing, don't worry, I'll address the timeline when each new Star Wars Disney Plus series in the next couple of years starts and where it fits in. Everyone post all your reactions to this High Republic stuff in the comments below. Let me know what you're most excited about. There'll be more Mandalorian Season 2 stuff happening really soon. In my Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7 Episode 2 video, we'll post this Friday, just like normal. Brand new Star Wars Clone Wars episodes every Friday. Everyone click here for my brand new Mandalorian Season 2 preview video, and click here for my brand new Star Wars Clone Wars Season 7 Episode 1 video. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay awesome. This is The Way.